I might be one of, if not the biggest fan of Mushroomancer. It's a skill I used in every single one of my 100-hour challenges in Monster Hunter World and my over 1,000 hours in time in the game. But does it hold up in Wilds? Well, good news. Mushroomancer will feel familiar to those who have used it in the past at least. And if you've never used it before, get ready to see a skill in Monster Hunter that might just change your hunting life. Hey there, my name's Tails. Welcome to Guinea Fox Gaming, and let me tell you how Mushroomancer works first in this video. Then I'll go over the details of the values and the buffs that are provided by Mushroomancer in Wilds, as they're kind of different from past games. Mushroomancer is a skill that you use to consume mushrooms. Mushrooms are an item that you normally gather and use to craft instead of eat, but now you can eat them. And similar to our distinguished yet disgusting friend Kangalala, the mushroom that you eat determines the effect that you get from the mushroom. Mushroomancer is found on the Kangalala armor and a talisman and decorations throughout the game. Each point of Mushroomancer that you add to your armor will allow you to eat additional types of mushrooms, thus providing more options and more effects. And the reason you'd want to eat mushrooms in the first place is because each type of mushroom you consume provides the effect of an item that's already in Monster Hunter, but with a cheaper cost to craft that item, and it's quicker to eat it. At Mushroomancer level 1, you're able to consume 2 different mushrooms, the blue mushroom and the toadstool. The blue mushroom's great because it's literally a potion just as a mushroom. And the nice thing is that you eat it instantly. It gives you the same effect of healing, the same amount of healing, but instead of doing a drinking animation, which takes a couple seconds, you just eat it all at once and it's all set to go. You get all the healing at once. It's pretty great. Toadstools are immunizers in the game, and immunizers are kind of an underrated item. They're not used that much. They do 2 things. Firstly, toadstools or immunizers, they cure bleed. So anytime you run into the bleed status, which I don't know of too many in Wilds, but every now and then it comes up, you can pop an immunizer or a toadstool and it'll get rid of the bleed instead of squatting on the ground. Secondly, and most importantly, they give you passive health regen. When you take a hit in Monster Hunter, your health bar goes down, but then there's a little like red bar from what the damage that you took. And over time, if you don't use a healing item or you don't get hit again, that bar will re-heal. It'll slowly go up. But with an immunizer or a toadstool, that regen speed is faster. I think it's 2 times faster, but I don't actually know how much faster it is. You can look at the video here on screen. It'll show you the difference in speed. But it's pretty quick. It's pretty nice just to have some passive health regen going on though. And so immunizers are pretty great. The difference though between immunizers and toadstools is that toadstools, once again, you can eat them instantly. You get the effect right as you eat it. You don't have to drink a whole potion for it. Also, that health regen buff lasts for 5 minutes, which is not that long, but it's still okay. It'll last you for a while, and then when the monster runs away, you can pop another toadstool and you're good to go. Now, if you put another point into Mushroomancer on your build and get to level 2, you unlock another 2 mushrooms to consume. The all-important Nitroshroom and Parashroom. The Nitroshroom is a demon drug, and the Parashroom is an armor skin. Those are the 2 items that they represent. They do the exact same thing, except that you get to eat the mushroom instantly instead of drink the potion. That's going to be true for all these mushrooms, by the way, just letting you know ahead of time. These 2 mushrooms are quite good because they're really easy to farm, and you only have to just eat 1 mushroom to get the effect, versus their counterparts, you need 2 items to farm up so that you can craft the potion. So it's pretty nice to have something you can just pop in your mouth right away and you're good to go, and not have to go farm up a whole bunch of parts to make it. Nitroshrooms and demon drugs provide a flat attack damage buff to your character. And I'll get into the amounts in just a minute here. But the thing to remember is that this is just free damage on every weapon, regardless of your build. You eat a demon drug or a Nitroshroom, and in this case, Nitroshrooms because you're doing Mushroomancer, and you just get a flat attack bonus. It's pretty sick. It's just gonna make you do more damage on any weapon that you play. And Parashrooms and armor skins are very similar, but they provide a flat defense boost. And like I said, the values are coming in a bit, but they're instant use, and they're really nice because they help you tank hits. They let you take more damage easier when you've got one of those going. It's nice. Then when you get to level 3 of Mushroomancer, you unlock the final 3 mushrooms that you can consume. You've got the Devil's Blight, the Mandragora, and the Excite Shrooms. Now, Mandragoras are the same item as Max Potions, a very, very powerful, maybe even the most powerful item in the game, because they provide you a full heal for your health bar. Whatever HP you're at, eat a Max Potion, you're topped off. And the first Max Potion you eat, or Mandragoras in this case, will max out your HP bar. So you normally start with 100 HP, but if you eat a Max Potion or a Mandragora, you go up to 150 HP. So that's pretty nice as well. It's a nice little buff there. And that buff lasts for like 50 minutes. It's a long time. The nice thing about Mandragoras versus Max Potions, though, is that you can carry 10 Mandragoras in your item pouch when you leave camp. And you can carry 2 Max Potions in your pouch, which means you're effectively leaving camp with 12 Max Potions in your pocket versus the normal 2 and then the crafting pieces to craft 5 more on the run. So Mushroomancer provides you a lot of healing. It'll help out a ton against particularly tough monsters where you're taking a lot of hits. Devil's Blights are an underappreciated mushroom that carries a lot of value in wilds. Devil's Blights are the same as a Dash Juice. It's a potion that gives you a max stamina bar, and for 3 minutes, it'll give you a constitution-like effect. It'll make you use less stamina whenever you use stamina. Meaning, you can dodge more, you can guard more, you can use attacks that use stamina more often, you can run longer, and there's more on the list that can go here. It's very powerful. It's right around a 25% decrease, I believe. I'm not a mathematician. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but it's right around 25%. And you can see in this video that's on screen now just how many dodges it takes to deplete the stamina bar with Dash Juice going. Every single weapon in the game benefits from having more stamina, some more than others. The bow and the dual blades in particular are really good with Devil's Blights because you use so much stamina with those weapons. But every shield weapon guards, every weapon dodge rolls to get around, and you can always use more dodge rolls. It's very, very good. And like I said, Devil's Blights are incredible because you eat them instantly to get that buff versus drinking the potion, which takes a few seconds. And that's a main reason why people don't use Dash Juice in the middle of hunts. They may use it at the start of a hunt and then won't touch it until the monster leaves an area. But Dash Juice, you can eat them right away and they're good to go. So you can always have that stamina buff running all the time. And then lastly, we get to the weird mushroom of the bunch, the Exciteshroom. When you eat one of these, you get a random effect from another mushroom. So it's kind of like a slot machine. Honestly, this effect isn't super great, but in Monster Hunter Wilds specifically, I think they're better than past games. I'll tell you more about that in just a little minute here, but Exciteshrooms are the shrooms for the people who like to gamble, and they have a little bit of a niche in this game if you hit a lucky buff. Now, let's get into some of the values for the buffs that are provided by each mushroom, because these are different in Wilds compared to past games. Let's get level 1 Mushroomancer out of the way, because this is really easy. There's no changes to how blue mushrooms and toadstools work in Wilds compared to past games. I will mention, though, that the health regen on toadstools is still very good, and it will keep you more healthy than you think it will. There's been many times throughout the game where I've been hit by a big attack that I would have carted to, but because of the health regen on the toadstool from an earlier attack, I was able to regen it pretty quick compared to pretty slow, and I survived the attack. So they do matter. They matter in a pinch. But level 2 of Mushroomancer is where things get really interesting. These values are actually way different compared to past games. Let me tell you about Monster Hunter World. This is where I use Nitroshrooms and Demon Drugs the most. In Monster Hunter World, Nitroshrooms gave you 7 flat attacks to your attack value. And Parashrooms gave you 15 defense. That was the same also for Demon Drugs and Armor Drugs. They're the same item. So 7 attack in World, 15 defense. In Wilds, Nitroshrooms give 16 attack. Over twice as much flat attack. And you heard that correctly. 16 attack. 16 attack in Wilds is more flat attack than the weapon skill attack boost plus 5 provides for flat amounts. Attack boost plus 5 still gives you a percentage multiplier on top of it, so it'll still give you more flat attack. But from just the flat attack amount, 1 Nitroshroom eaten will give you more flat attack than the attack boost 5 skill will give. That is insane. That's so much damage. And on top of that, if you combine a Nitroshroom and attack boost 5, the numbers are crazy. By comparison, in World, a Nitroshroom only gave similar flat attack as attack boost plus 2. Now we're talking about attack boost plus 5 in Wild. This is a massive buff to Nitroshrooms, and I believe that they're boosted because there's not as many attack skills that you can equip to your builds anymore with how they change the armor skills and the weapon skills in this game. I think it's pretty crazy, but I also think it's very good. It's worth running. The Parashrooms and the Armor Drugs give 15 defense, and this is the same as Monster Hunter World in past games, so there's no changes there, but free defense is free defense. I'll take it. Now, keep in mind that these buffs are timed buffs, but I don't know the exact time, but it's more than 10 minutes. It's probably a half hour or something like that. I was playing with it on stream. It didn't last quite as long as a food buff, but it lasted pretty close to as long as a food buff. It's awesome. I don't actually know the exact number, though. Sorry. But the real big deal here is that these buffs persist even after you cart. In past games, when you carted, the attack buff and the defense buff from Nitroshrooms and Parashrooms went away, and you'd have to rebuff yourself with those mushrooms. Not in Wilds. In Wilds, when you cart, you still have your attack buff and defense buff until the timer runs off, which is actually massive. It's so good that those buffs last forever because of a lot of reasons, and I'm going to explain that at the end of the video. There's some really good reasons for this, so hang around for that, though. But let me give you the flip side of this argument and why people don't use the shrooms that much. The argument against this whole thing with mushrooms is the existence of Mega Demon Drug and Mega Armor Drug, because they provide more potent buffs than the mushrooms do. The Mega Demon Drug provides 25 flat attack, and a Mega Armor Skin provides 25 defense when consumed. And to put this in perspective, in World, a Mega Demon Drug gave 10 attack, and a Mega Armor Drug gave 25 defense. So we're getting a massive attack boost between World and Wilds here. Now, these buffs are more than their regular versions or the mushroom equivalents of each of them, but it comes at the cost of crafting the Megas because they cost so many materials. Plus, you've got a drinking animation. They take like 3 to 4 seconds to drink. And these buffs, they're worth it because they last after you cart as well, so you don't have to re-up your Mega Armor Drug and Mega Demon Drug buffs after you cart, so you're not going to use as many. But the crafting side is a lot. You need a lot of materials to craft them. And as far as I know in Wilds currently, and I'm not fully through endgame, but I'm getting close. I don't know if there's a shop where you can buy the Armor Drug and Demon Drug. I don't know if there's not really a Botanical Gardens. It's different. It's not that good. It doesn't help that much. You're going to have to go gather ingredients for all of these. And that's a lot of time spent gathering ingredients. And so there's the pros and cons between the two. Lastly, let's get into the Mandragoras and the Devil's Blights. These are the mushrooms that you give the third point of Mushroomancer in your build. The Max Potion and the Mandragora have the same animation speed when you eat them. So you're not gaining any speed in consuming. And you also still get the full HP heal when you eat a Mandragora Max Potion. Like I said before, you can still carry 10 Mandragoras in your pack, so you get more heals per visit to camp compared to not running Mushroomancer. But an interesting note here is that the HP bar maxing out persists after carting as well, so you don't need to re-up your HP bar after you cart anymore. So that's less Mandragoras and Max Potions to consume just for the HP bonus. Conversely, though, there's something wrong in Wilds when it comes to Mushroomancer with how they've done food buffs, as well as the addition to well-done steaks and how they work in Wilds this time around. Food buffs in Wilds last for a set period of time, usually 50 minutes. And instead of losing the buff when you cart, you keep them. So you always have all the effects of the food buff after you cart, which means your Mandragoras and Max Potions aren't quite as useful anymore because you almost always get a max HP bar after you do a food buff. And it gets even worse because well-done steaks in Wilds now provide you a max HP bar and a max stamina bar, where in past games they only provided a max stamina bar. Overall, these changes in Wilds are really good. The max HP bar and the max stamina bar from food buffs and well-done steaks is a fantastic addition, but it does lessen the benefits of Mandragoras in your Mushroomancer build. With Devil Blights and Dash Juice, you have an interesting change this time around with the stamina decrease buff. If you cart while that buff is active, you still get the 3 minutes of stamina decrease cost until the timer runs out anyways. And the fun part is that when you cart and you wind up back at camp, that timer's paused. I actually found this out the hard way. I was in camp, had consumed a buff, and sat there for like 10 minutes and nothing changed. And it wasn't until I got out in the field and I was hunting a monster that the timer came on, and it's about a 3-minute timer, and then the buff went away. So you get to keep those buffs, and they're all paused when you're camp, which is kind of cool. And then that leaves us with the Excite Shroom, the slot machine mushroom. And I told you earlier, there's something interesting about these mushrooms. Normally, I don't use Excite Shrooms at all because it's gambling. Like I want the buff right now. I don't want to gamble for the buff. But there's more reason in Wilds to use these because the buffs all persist after you cart, that it might be worthwhile to log on to the game for the day and just eat a bunch of Excite Shrooms so you get all the Mushroomancer buffs, and then not use them until you run out of buffs and come back. It's so it can decrease how many total mushrooms you consume of specific types, because you might gamble well on those. So there's actually a little bit of a reason to use Excite Shrooms in Wilds. Now we get to the tough part of Mushroomancer to see whether it's worth using or not. And the reason why is that farming for mushrooms is pretty rough. Back in Monster Hunter World and in Rise and Sunbreak as well, there was something like the Botanical Gardens, which was a place where you could tell the gardener to farm up a bunch of those items for you. And after you did a quest, there'd be items waiting for you in the botanical gardens, and you could just pick them up and add them to your inventory, and you're good to go. And back in World, you could have 4 slots active at once. So I could be growing 4 different types of mushrooms at once, and I could increase their growth rates, all this stuff. It was super good, and it made Mushroomancer great because you just always had mushrooms all the time. You never had to farm for them. That is not the case in Wilds. There is something like botanical gardens, but it's much slower, like a lot slower in terms of getting the mushrooms that you want. And so it's a lot harder to farm up all the mushrooms that you want to use for Mushroomancer because you need to actually go out on expeditions to grab all this stuff. So I'm not a huge fan of doing this. I don't really like just having expeditions where all I do is just go and gather. I'll pick them up as I go around, but some of the mushrooms, particularly the mandragoras, they're really hard to find. Devil's Blights too, actually. Devil's Blight and mandragoras are pretty rare in Wilds, and they're the best mushrooms to use on Mushroomancer. And you go through them fast. You know, you think about full heals of the mandragoras, they go out the window pretty quickly. And if you're only finding 1 or 2 on the map at once, it's kind of hard to restock those. But on the flip side, I will say, you're going to have to go gather supplies for a lot of these buffs anyways. If you're going to run not Mushroomancer, you're going to have to go get stuff to farm up Armor Drug and Demon Drug, or the mega versions, which take way more materials, as well as max potions require mandragoras to craft them. Immunizers require max potions to craft them as well. There's a whole bunch of stuff you need, and God forbid you want to get into dash juice, because you need dash extract, which you don't farm up on the map. You farm them from monsters. So you got to do hunts to get those bad boys. Or there's a trader too, but it's not always available. So it's kind of tough to get the parts to get the item equivalents because I don't know where to buy them. And if you know, please leave it in the comments. Let me know where the botanical gardens or where the shop is to buy the armor drugs and demon drugs, because if we can all help each other out and not farming up materials, that would be great. Let me add some good news to this though. This does add a little bit of a benefit to running the skill Botanist to your build. Normally, Botanist is not a very useful skill, but in Wilds, it's got a lot of uses. Every point of Botanist lets you gather extra consumables or extra herbs or extra mushrooms when you go and gather from places. And level 4 specifically deals with mushrooms. You get extras. And so those mandragoras and devil's blights that normally don't have very many on the map, now you're getting double, sometimes triple, depending on how many are on the patch. It's pretty nice. And so it's worth, I've already built one. I've got an equipment skill slot set up just for Botanist. And so when I'm just out exploring the map and I need mushrooms, I go to the Scarlet Forest, I make my rounds, I gather all the mushrooms I can, and I'm getting extra mushrooms, so I'm topped off, and then I can use Mushroomancer without having to go exploring like crazy. Now, the flip side of that too is that Mushroomancer also only requires you to eat 1 mushroom per effect. So Botanist actually pays off huge in this regard, because you're going to pick up a lot of mushrooms, but you're only using 1 at a time. So it's a lot easier to get those effects than it is to craft the item equivalents that you need. But Botanist will help you craft the item equivalents as well. You'll get more of those as you go around. You just have to gather more different types of ingredients. The last issue with Mushroomancer comes in with the amount of decorations we can slot into our armor. We are playing base Monster Hunter Wilds right now. There's no expansion as of recording. We're not going to get more armor slots currently, as we know. And so you're very limited on what you can put into your armor compared to past games where you had a lot of slots to put stuff in. You could get the armor skill from Kangalala for Mushroomancer. There's also a talisman that you can build, and there are decorations that you can find to slot into your build, but you need 3 points. So there's this trade-off there on whether you want to run it or not. So it's kind of hard to justify with the number of skill slots we have available up to us to have Mushroomancer on all the time. But I have the tech. I have the best way to use Mushroomancer, in my opinion, currently. I've been using this on stream. It's been great. It's working really well. Let me tell you why Mushroomancer is going to be very important for every hunter, no matter what. You ready for this? Mushroomancer at level 2 lets you eat Parashrooms and Nitroshrooms, which are armor drugs and demon drugs. It costs you 1 mushroom for that buff, and that buff lasts even after your cart. It's going to be there for about 30 to 45 minutes, somewhere in that time range. It'll be on your character for a long time. You can make a build that has Mushroomancer level 2 on it in your camp, eat your Parashroom and Nitroshroom, and then take off your build and go to your regular build that doesn't have Mushroomancer on it, and you still retain the buffs. It stays on you. It's so you can get a massive attack damage boost with Nitroshrooms and some free defense boosts with the Parashrooms while you have Mushroomancer equipped while you're in the camp. Eat the mushrooms, then put away your equipment loadout with Mushroomancer on it, put on the equipment loadout you normally run, and you're still gonna be buffed, and you'll be all set to keep hunting. It works really, really well, and there's no weapon out there that doesn't benefit from that. Not to mention, you benefit from not having to farm up so many materials to go craft all the armor drugs and demon drugs in the game. You can just put on Mushroomancer, which is really cheap to build, apply the buffs, and then put on the armor that you had before, and you do that like every 45 minutes, something like that. It's no big deal. It is absolutely fantastic. The downside here for doing this is that you lose access to mandragoras for healing, but that only matters if you need 12 max potions before restocking at camp. And in past games, in World, I felt like that healing was really nice, especially against the really harder monsters. In Wilds currently, I haven't run into the monster that's made me wish I had more healing, but I'm just some dude who plays Monster Hunter on YouTube, all right? This is different for every single player. Some players need more healing, some players don't. Mushroomancer 3 will help you get through hunts that are difficult. So run it if you need the healing, and don't feel bad about it. Please don't feel bad about it, okay? Mushroomancer's great for getting you through the game and helping you out. It really does help a ton. But if you are somebody who isn't in need of the healing, and you're not addicted to Devil's Blights like I am, you will definitely benefit from having Mushroomancer level 2 on an item set that you only use in the camp for the buffs, and then take off the armor and put on your regular armor and head on out. It's really, really good. It helps out so much, and you only have to do that every time you need food buffs, which you're gonna do at camp probably anyways, because doing that in the middle of combat is kind of crazy. So, is Mushroomancer worth it? I'm not entirely sure. I'm a die-hard Mushroomancer fan. I think it's a fantastic skill, but Wilds might have put just enough negatives into that skill to make it not worthwhile to run all the time. But swapping it out for the Nitroshroom and the Parashroom buffs are entirely worth it, and I will always be doing this every single day, so I will just as much be a mushroom addict as I was in World. Have you used Mushroomancer before? Is this the first time you've heard about it, or have you been a mushroom addict like I have been? Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know what you think about the changes that Wilds do and how this this swapping of equipment could help out with buffs and things. What do you think? I'd love to see what you all think about the most underrated skill in Monster Hunter. Thanks for watching and happy hunting.